something today and then tomorrow.
I looked at that. I just didn't have time to do that. Maybe next year. I might go learn something. Maybe. I don't know. You done any of that?
I read them. I did read a lot of it online.
I've taken those
Have you?
two that they offer one every year. Well, they actually offer two at the same time on the day after legislative day. I've taken those two. I haven't taken the rest of them. They're pretty good. It's a pretty good trip.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm sure it would be worth going at least once.
We ready?
I think so.
Okay, it's 5:30. We'll get started where we can finish at a good hour. Like to thank all of you for coming. And we'll call the February 7th, 2023 Walhalla City Council Committee meeting to order. This is committee night, so it's a little more informal, but we'll have discussions on our different committees. At this time, we'll have a short moment of silence. We're going to do the pledge. This time we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Pace, you want to do the honor tonight?
Yes, sir. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item is approval of our agenda. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next item is public input. Public input is limited to 5 minutes and must be directed to council per City Ordinance 2020-17. So we'll open the floor for public input at this time. Is there anyone that would like to bring anything before council? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. And we'll do the committee reports. The first one is Parks and Recreation. Is Mr. Galbraith?
He's
not
at
gonna be
the
here?
last night of tournament, so I can go over the report, or if one of y'all want to.
I read it. Walhalla City basketball, or Walhalla City tournaments wrapped up last night. The county tournaments start tonight. All-Star practice will begin on Monday, February the 13th, and the All-Star District tournament will be on February the 24th and 25th. Baseball and softball sign-up started Monday, February the 6th, and will go through Friday, February the 17th. And that's all I had on that report.
All right. Next committee report, let's go to Public Works and Mr. Price.
Good evening.
Hey.
leaf truck is still down. We think we've got all the parts now, and we should have it running this week. The auto car trash truck has been down a couple of weeks. The spindle on it was messed up. It came from the factory, and they've done it under warranty. But it's still down, and hopefully the last part will ship today. So we should have that back up and running. We are behind a little bit on trash. We're being able to keep up. We're having to use a little bit of overtime to do it, but we're keeping up.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
The leaf truck, did something else happen to that, or was that from the,
No,
Ford.
somehow or another, the DEF system had caught on fire, and, but we were waiting on parts for it, cause it had to come from a few different places.
okay.
We turned that in on insurance. They came out and did a inspection and a
Okay.
report on it. So apparently when it regened, it caught fire. So melted a bunch of wires and electronics
Yeah.
and I mean, we had $1,000 deductible. It was about a $6,000 repair and insurance covered the balance. So
That's good.
That's good. Is that new front loader that's on order, is it still on time frame that's,
It's supposed to be here in the next 3 to 4 months.
so nothing's changed there?
Who knows?
Okay.
It would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're relying on the used one we bought right now,
That's all
full
we got.
time, that's all we got.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Good job.
Any other questions for Mr. Price? Okay.
Thank you,
sir.
Russ.
Okay, let's go to our police committee. Is Chief Rice here?
he's not here. He must have got tied up with something. So.
Okay, why don't we go around him and we'll come back to him. Let's go to utilities, Mr. Scott Price.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, sir.
Let's see. Just a few things. Over the next few weeks, we're gonna be doing some maintenance up at the bike park on the old watershed lake up there, the large lake. This is the one where the trail actually comes across the dam. There's some trees and brush and things that we need to get off of that area, and this is the best time of year to do it. Everything's died down, so
Not near snaky either.
no, that's why we like this time of year. So as soon as we're able to get some dry time, which we've got some coming up, looks like, so we'll be going up there and taking care of that. And last week we had a major issue, as I'm sure you're all aware, with our billing software. The system was down for about 2.5 days. What we discovered was the system wasn't generating the bills. The information was in the system, the reads, everything was there, went through the process, and it was not generating the correct number of bills. So we got our support folks on that, and it took them about 2.5 days to get it back online. They said that they saw there were issues. They told us to stay out of the system for a couple days, and then they brought it back up. So I think while they were doing some trial runs, Mr. Underwood was able to get in, and he saw his bill online and made payment right quick. So we couldn't access it, though. We couldn't see it. But it's up and running now, and we have changed the due date to the 20th, so there's no penalties on customers this month, because we realized they were late getting out. Customers are getting their bills now. And another thing we're seeing, which we anticipated this, a lot of customers are having high bills because of frozen pipes and line breaks during the cold snap around Christmas. So the usage from those days are on these bills now. So we've had several customers come in today, high bills. We explain to them what's going on. We try to help them figure out what's happening. And with that, we offer those that are eligible, a leak adjustment, if they've got a break, they fixed it, they show proof that they corrected it, we can adjust their bill for them. That's something that we do offer once every 4 years. And for folks that do not qualify for that, we offer payment plans. So we do have ways to help. And as Mr. Keene has said in the past, there are organizations out there that the girls have got a list of up front that can help folks if they're struggling with a high bill right now. So all they need to do is ask, and we'll do our best to help them with that. So, and as always, if somebody's got an ongoing leak and they need some help, ideas of where to look, we can do that too. We'll help them out with that. So, and one of our newer developments, an extension of Windsor, Walhalla. The first phase of that extension, which I believe was 48 lots, the new line for that phase has been completed. We've made the application to DHEC for our final approval on that, so that they can start building on those new lots. I think it's 48 lots up there. So.
Tell me where that is, Scott.
Off of Leroy Road, just before you get to Falcon's Lair, Windsor.
Oh,
There's a little gravel road called Nelly Drive.
Nelly?
Oh,
Is that where
okay.
they connected?
Did
Yeah.
we run the line down Nelly? Is that what we did, or?
We did not, the contractor did.
I gotcha,
Yeah.
I gotcha,
The
okay.
developer had a contractor do it, so they ran it down. There's gonna be another phase. I think all in total, there's gonna be around 90 new lots out there. But, the others are in development, or in design right now. So this is the first phase, and I believe that roadway is gonna get paved also. So,
Mhm. They were ready to pave it, and then the rains hit and caused some
Yeah,
issues, so.
they've had several delays because of the weather.
Mhm.
Hopefully this dry spell will help them out. So,
And we're good for taps when those come?
yes.
Oh, that's
These are
great.
actually pre-made. They ordered the materials for this several months ago.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's come in, and we have meters in stock, so the tap, the box, everything is in place, so when
Oh,
they come in for
great.
that one, they'll pay the fee, we go put a meter in the box and they're good to go.
Is the water tap situation a lot better than it was then?
It is, we've had materials, a good bit of materials come in, so we are in better shape there now. We are catching up some. We've had competition between weather and leaks, but they are making headway on the list, so. Yeah, things are improving with that.
I had a resident, and I spoke with Scott earlier, I had a resident just mention if there'd be some way to have a program to help the elderly in cases where we have these freezes like we had this, and these water line breaks. And I mentioned to him that there are, just like Scott said, there are programs in place to help for that already. And I just want to make sure, I told him I'd mention it, and thanks for covering it, and so I just want to make sure that I
Yeah.
did mention it. And like you said, folks, just ask, just come, don't suffer through it, wondering how am I gonna ever just turn off my water. No, just come and ask, and our water department is looking out for your good to help you stay in water. Thank you.
Glad to do it.
That one we did with Salvation Army, is that working out? Are they still?
They are still, and there are a couple others that are in the mix, kind of in and out with
Good.
certain situations, but they give them the contact information and
That's good.
let the customer make the call, so.
I had a couple of calls about in December, on the billings. Was what we had this month kind of a continuation? Did you have some of that in December too, that some bills didn't?
I think so, because what's happened, we input all the information into the system, and we actually have had the folks go through it with us just to verify everything is as it should be on our side. There were some of the accounts that a bill just was not produced within the system, and I think this month was kind of the highlight of that, because we only had, I think on our runs, we were doing about 44 bills being produced. In reality, it should be 6,700. So it just kind of snowballed. And I think it came to a head this month. And they had to do something. We had told them previously they thought they had some things corrected. But again, they spent 2.5 days this time doing that.
Anything else for Mr. Paris? I know you're helping get us straightened out on this email issue we're having as well. Appreciate you helping out with that.
In name only. Brandon's the one handling that.
Oh, okay.
My name just happens to be on the
Well, yours keeps coming up, so yeah.
I called him today about it. Is this a spam thing or something? But
All right, if anybody else have anything? All right, we're good.
thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Have a good evening.
You too.
I see the chief is now in the building, so, we'll do the police report. Chief Rice.
Apologize for being late. I got held up in court. Went through real quick for January events and completed training. Officer Mark Mealy was able to attend a specific skills certification training. We hosted our Caught Being Good program. It was our second one of the year. At the middle school, we had 8 students from 7th grade this time that participated in that. We ate lunch with them and talked to them for a while and rewarded them for being caught doing something out of the normal. So they seemed to enjoy that. We had a good time with that. Kind of skipping out of order a little on here. We got a grant this month from a company called Spirit of Blue. What they do is help provide safety equipment to law enforcement throughout the country. I applied for it a while back. Initially, we didn't hear anything, and then around Christmas, I got word from them that we had gotten that grant, about $3,000 worth of equipment. I'll pass it around. I'll warn you guys, though, if you haven't saw one of them, don't let it shine here right in your face. It's pretty bright. But the idea behind them is that officer can wear this on their lapel, so if they're out at night in the road in traffic, people can see them with that. It also has some flashlight, low light, different things on there officer can use to maybe in a tactical situation. So some outside, I'll pass it over to you guys to look at.
Might not make it to you.
Yeah, that is sweet little device right there.
We were able with that grant to get one for every officer
Right.
to have one there. So
That's
it's
good.
a nice small piece of equipment. It's pretty handy and they're rechargeable. So we don't have to buy batteries or forget where to put them. So it should be helpful.
Too heavy.
We have a new hire who started last week with us. Actually, it's kind of a new old hire. Kyle Langdon started his career at Walhalla several years ago. Stayed with us for about 3 years and then moved on to Seneca Police Department and decided that he wanted to come back home. So we got him on board, and
That's great.
he is now working on one of our night shifts. So glad to have him on board, and we still have one vacant spot that we're trying to get filled. So we're working on that. Some last week and this week. Hopefully we'll be fully staffed very soon. And then last, I'm sure most of you probably have seen us. I spoke with the mayor. There's a company called SafeWise, and each year they look at cities throughout the state, throughout the whole United States, and in each of that, they rank the top 100 safest cities, and then primarily focus on the top 20. This year we were number 3, third safest city in the state. That's based on numbers of violent crimes and property crimes that we had. Our rates were lower in 2022 than in 2021 and lower than they were in 2020. So we saw a downward track in those crimes, particularly in property crimes. We saw a decrease there. So we have those numbers. I'll pass this around. There's some other good information in there. We were, last year, I believe we were about number 9. So we moved up quite a few spots year over year. So we're going to continue to try to work and see if we can get to number 1 spot this next year. be my goal, so.
We've been in the top 10 several times in the last 10 years.
We have.
I don't know that we've been in every year, but there's been, I remember one year we were 7th or 8th.
One thing I saw in looking through this I thought was very interesting was that in the upstate, there's only one. Central was also ranked in the top 20, and they were the only city in the upstate besides us who made the top 20.
Wow.
And out of that, we were number 3. So I thought that was very good for that. And I'll pass this around. I did not include that in my packet this month, so you may want to look at some of the numbers from that.
Lots of good publicity on that, because I actually saw that was in the Columbia newspaper.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of people see that. And I think if I were potentially moving or gonna open a business in a new town, and you see something like that, certainly encouraging to know that it's a safe place to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, move on down to our total calls for service for January, 1,383. We had 118 hours of training for the month, 27 arrests, all of which are adults, no juveniles, and we completed 432 business checks and extra patrols. For the month, we had 32 hours of overtime, which is down from 72. I'm sorry, we had 36 hours of overtime, 4 hours of court, 32 for shift coverage, down from 72 the previous month. Coming up, Staff Sergeant McCall is going to be heading down to the academy for some narcotics training, and all officers within the next 6 weeks will be finishing up our spring in-service training that we do annually, our annual emergency vehicle operations and pursuit driving, which we do with the Oconee County Sheriff's Office, kind of a group event there. If any of you have not been and would like to, I encourage you to let me know if you have some time. We'll be glad to take you down, and you can ride with us there if you wanted to see kind of what that looks like. We've had some in the past who went down. I think they may have had a different perspective on what they thought it was. So I would encourage if you're interested.
Tell me again.
So we go down and we do some basic, just basic driving skills, but then we actually have a simulated pursuit. So they will have a car that we will chase in a controlled environment. There's a campground that we go to that's closed for the season. It has a lot of turns, a lot of intersections, and we use that to simulate a pursuit, how to do those safely, when to terminate the pursuit, and then once the pursuit stops, what would happen from there, whether you make an arrest or don't make an arrest, get kind of the end of the scenario. We also,
That sounds great.
yeah, so everyone seems to like it. It's a very good training because it's hands-on and simulates what that might be in real life for those who've not had one. So if anybody's interested, just let me know.
When is that gonna be?
It's going to be in March, and it runs. We'll have officers going a couple times a day for a period of probably a week and a half or so.
Okay.
I'll get the dates together. We just got it all hemmed up yesterday, so I'll get the dates to everyone if anybody'd like to go.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Please.
We're also going to be at the range in first couple weeks of March doing our annual firearms qualification and our patrol rifle qualifications. So, if anyone would like to come and join us for that, you're more than welcome there as well. And same as last month, I did include all the other numbers, the breakdown of types of reports and tickets in the material, but I won't go over each one of those unless anyone has any questions about it.
When was the firearms?
It's also going to be in March.
Okay.
It's about the middle of the month in there, I think, 10th, 12th, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'll get some exact dates on that.
Is there, looking at the collisions, is there any one place that you know, like if there's gonna be a collision, it's at this intersection?
Probably one of the more popular, frequented intersections, I would say, is probably Main Street at Earl by Domino's. I think that one is, we've had a significant number there because you're going out of the, kind of headed out of town or out of the 30 mile an hour zone back into 35 and then 45, so increasing speeds a little bit there. We have-
Hardee's to Domino's, those two right there is.
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of the busier ones for that. And then behind that, I would say is probably going to be North Catherine and North Broad at the bottom of the hill by the Civic
Oh,
Auditorium.
really?
We have a good number there probably.
Okay.
With all the, right there at the Earl Street with those restaurants right there, there's a whole lot of that problem too.
You have Earl Street coming out, South Broad dumps onto Earl right at the intersection. I think it's just a combination of a lot of roads coming together right there. There's a red light, so that should take care of it, but. Also don't know that there's not a turn arrow particularly there either, and that sometimes forces people to try to hurry up and beat the light or beat the car that's coming at them and causes that sign.
Any other questions on,
That's super
police?
with the guys and the girls on the awards and stuff. That's wonderful that we,
Yes,
improving every year.
yes.
Keep it up.
I would mention again that Councilwoman Sarah Melendez is in Columbia at the training today, tomorrow, so she's not here tonight. All right, thank you, sir. Next in line, we've got the fire department, Chief Bates.
Good evening. For the month of January, we saw a decrease in calls for service for the month. We were in 120 for the month. Our average last year was around 135 to 142. So I do expect that to pick up for the rest of the year. We responded to 20 instances of mutual aid. We spent 162 hours on incidents. We did see some increase in fires. That's something with this time of year, that's normally our busy season for running fires, colder weather. We trained for 271 hours during the month, which is slightly lower due to the holidays. But there's several staff members, I think right now we're collectively signed up for around 60 classes over the next 6 months. So they'll definitely be going in, taking training, increasing their knowledge base. Still going through the process of becoming a South Carolina DHEC BLS agency. That should be completed within the next month and a half. We have all of our equipment, we have everything. It's now just going through DHEC inspections and LLR inspections. Once that happens, we'll be able to actually give some medications while we're actually on calls, which will be a huge help for the community. Completing business inspections and pre-fire plans. We've been talking to the local businesses. Terry, our fire marshal, he's been dealing with them, getting everybody on a schedule. That way everybody knows when their inspection will be every year. It won't change. You know you'll be inspected in January and another business will be inspected in July. It's a set schedule. That way it's no surprises. That way they can be prepared for that. It's interference for running their business. That we try to understand that, so we try to make sure everything stays the same. Other than that, our grants, last meeting I told you I was waiting on the funding amount for the South Carolina V-Safe grant. I got that back last week. We'll be getting $13,350 off of that, and that's going to be going toward purchasing a combination tool to help with vehicle extrication. A lot of our extrication equipment is getting older, getting outdated. We had one set fail last year, so this will help go toward replacing that and keeping those up. Other than that, is there any questions for me? Super.
Anybody? I think we're good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Will.
Next we have community development. Ms. Myers.
for the month of January, I know y'all are getting tired of seeing this, but we did continue work on ordinances. It takes some time to make sure that they're written, that they are what is right for the city, and that we dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's. So we are continuing to work on the zoning ordinance updates, the draft of the historical ordinance. You'll remember the joint planning commission council meeting that we had just a few weeks ago, and then also the vacant building ordinance. We did some additional research for the workforce housing opportunities and short-term rentals. I know that has come up in the last few weeks to a month, so we are getting some data ready for that. We have worked with 2 new businesses on Main Street, or potential new businesses, as well as a food trailer last month. We did receive 8 complaints. Those that dealt with the signs and zoning, those were handled, but those that were in reference to property maintenance, we did just hold those back because we're in our grace period right now. So next week, once we start the enforcement of property maintenance again, those will be one of the first ones that we go to look at, just to see if they took the opportunity during the grace period to clean up, or if it's something that we may need to talk with them and to address. The South Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association's CPAT team came up 2 weekends ago now to hold a charrette for the Kaufman Square Park, the connectivity and activities. Several of you were there. Thank you for attending and supporting that. It was a really good turnout. We got a lot of good information. The CPAT team has taken all of the ideas and the proposals from the community. They are generating a report for that, and we should have that in the next couple of weeks. Whether they send it to us and we present, or whether they will send a representative up and present before you, I don't know that yet, but as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. We did have 2 preliminary plat requests. They didn't have to go before Planning Commission, but we do say that we're going to just keep you informed. So we had one that was just a subdivision, 1 into 2, and then we had 1 request. It's actually Habitat for Humanity. They did a 5-lot subdivision. So we do have those approved and ready to move. The Downtown Development Corporation met in the month of January. They looked at 2 applications for the facade grant, one of which was approved, and work has already commenced on that project. We are laying the groundwork for the baseline conditions for the comprehensive plan, as well as the process of how that is going to flow, I hope, as his draft. Allow it to be a fluid process, but you should have that this coming month. And it'll include some focus groups that I hope council will be willing to sit on and support and help, because it'll be a big project. And then otherwise, we did just our regular processing of permits, general office and website management, and a lot of calls and emails just on the development process, what is allowed, what's not, food trucks, etc. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Try to get you out of here as quick as I can.
I had a question. Now, I don't know, this is kind of out of left field, but we had mentioned it briefly. Brandon and I talked about it. You know, with everything, the economy like it is, and I'm thinking specifically the price of eggs like they are, and we're talking about zoning here. What would be the process that we'd go through where I know that, you know, if you have a big enough lot, you can have certain
Livestock?
Right. But there's a lot of folks that don't meet that size.
That's true.
But they're probably the ones that need the opportunity to raise a couple chickens and get some eggs more than anybody.
That's going to take council's approval of changing the ordinance. But
So-
that is something that we can look at and draft if you direct me to do so.
Well, I'd like to see something worked up that we could, you know, I know people are not going to want to hear a rooster,
No,
You
I
know,
would definitely
but
recommend.
yeah,
roosters.
but if they could have, you know, I don't know what would be appropriate. That's something I don't know. We go to planning commission first, or it starts with you? How do we do that, Celia?
You can direct planning commission, take this up. Obviously, staff will be the ones to write it, but then we will take it to planning commission for their recommendation, and then they would send that recommendation up to full council, and then council would be the one that would have to adopt it, 2 readings, public hearing.
Okay, now when you say we direct it, would that be our committee that would have to direct that? We'd have to vote on that?
It could come from the community development committee, or it could come from full council.
Yeah, either one. You can just direct staff to work on that and to work with the planning commission.
Okay, do we need to
So,
vote on that for the community development committee? I know Sarai's not here, but I'm on it. Keith, I believe you're on it.
Yeah, since it's committee night, yeah, you could vote on that. And,
I mean, does that sound like something you'd be interested in having them look at?
I don't know, cause, most of the people that you're probably thinking about are in general residential areas, very dense.
Oh, yeah,
And,
no, I'm
you
thinking
know,
Mill Hill.
Yeah, and if you open that zoning ordinance up and redirect it to where it's allowed in those dense areas, it's gonna be a full-fledged farm on that part of the city.
Well, maybe we could open it up and see what they come up with. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we gotta vote on it yet,
Yeah.
whether we're gonna say yay or nay to it.
Yeah.
But at least we could look at it. I would think that, in some cases, I already know there's people out there doing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
doing it anyway, that's true.
You
They
know,
are doing it.
and instead of having people operating against the ordinances out of necessity, it would, I think
you would.
looking out one for another.
For instance, you'd need a fenced area, something to that effect if you were gonna.
Well, the
consider-
Oh, no,
People-
you
the
don't need a
people that's-
fence, you just a coop, small
The
coop.
people that's doing it now, and I know a lot of them, that are, I don't know them personally, but I know the areas,
Right.
and yeah, they're in violation of an ordinance,
Mm-hmm.
but if they're doing it in the right way and they're not bothering their neighbor, nobody's complaining about it, so she's not getting the phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Have you had any complaints?
I've had people call and ask if they could do it, and I've had to tell them no.
Yeah.
I haven't had anyone call and complain. But again, I don't know what I'll find when I start enforcement next week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the only ones that aren't able to do it are the ones that are gonna obey the rules.
Yeah.
So if we made the rules and allowed everyone to do it within, you know, health guidelines, I think it could help out a lot of people.
Well, the big problem is, what you just said, the health guidelines, and one of the worst is birds, as far as the health and DHEC's concerned.
But I bet the Mill Hill, when it first was created, I bet it had chickens all
I
over
bet
it.
it did.
And I think everybody grew up there just fine.
Yeah, I agree. But the population wasn't like it is now either.
Wasn't much different. If we need a vote, I guess we don't have a majority on the council then if you're voting against it.
Well, I mean, if you want them to discuss it at the planning commission and let them have a discussion and make a decision on what their opinions are,
They can make a recommendation.
they can make a recommendation, and that gives us more time to think about it and discuss it.
Fair enough.
After their recommendation.
Fair enough. If you're willing for that,
Yeah, then all
Okay.
you gotta do is
all right. Thank
ask,
you, Celia.
ask Celia to
I'll do that.
proceed with that.
Mm-hmm.
It would be good to know what the DHEC regulations are as well.
Oh, I can pull those. pretty quickly.
Well, there's, I can tell you this, with that zoning ordinance on animals or livestock, there's also a zoning on fowl, there's none permitted in the city limits of
In
any
fowl?
kind.
Of foul.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Even if you have the acreage for a cow, you cannot
Right.
have birds.
Okay, well, let's definitely work on this then.
And it's all about the health issues probably,
Yeah.
when they written that. But she can-
Well, yeah, let's find out.
she can
Once we get the
check into
chickens in, we'll work on cows
Yeah.
on the Mill Hill. I'm teasing. County.
We can't do that.
All right.
Let's see, is there anything else here that we need to touch on? Let's see.
I see one appeals. Was that taken care of, or is that in? Okay. Okay, great.
Looks good to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we'll go to general government. Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sort of a lengthy rundown here. I'll try to be brief on it. New city judge, Judge Barton, Roberta Barton, she was sworn in this month. I did speak with the carnival operator, so we've taken care of lining that up for Independence Fest. I met with the Oconee County, the Public Library Group, to start planning for the Hispanic Heritage Festival, and there's a grant opportunity that we'll be proceeding with for that as well. This month, upcoming month, the judge and court clerk will be in Columbia for a few days for training. Now that the C word hopefully is out of messing stuff up, in-person training's open back up, so they'll be taking part of that as part of their continuing ed. I did mention, I believe, at their budget workshop, our calendar is now posted on the website with all the meetings and events. Our online, the business license portal through the municipal association is up and running. I've still got to link that to our website. I got a few updates on that. Myself and other staff, we're working on numerous ordinances that cover several departments. There's just a lot of housekeeping that we'll need to do. Obviously, one of them that Celia mentioned is zoning, and just we had a rewrite in 17, and then we adjusted a few things, I believe, last year. But as the city's grown and as we get more questions, there's a lot of stuff that it's worked fine in the past, but as people move out into different areas, they're like, okay, one section says this, but it references something else. So I don't want to say, there's probably some ambiguity that we need to clean up and just make it more concise. Adding tables, some pictures maybe, just to make it more understandable. So we're working on that. Obviously, in conjunction with the budget, there'll be a building official ordinance. We've already adopted the ICC codes, but we'll just build upon that. In order to have a building official, we'll have to have a building official review board. That way, if building official makes a ruling and the owner, builder, whomever disagrees with it, they'll bring it before that board. And then if they still don't like what it is, it'll go on up to circuit court. It'd be kind of like how the BZA operates. So that building review board will be semi-judicial, quasi-judicial. Working on, and sort of to speak to your comment about the chickens, Chief Rice and Celia, they're working on our leash law, and trying to do that, we're looking at animals as a whole, how that plays in with our existing ordinance and our zoning. So we're taking a look at some of that, but we'll get planning commission's input on those as well, since that does kind of fall into the zoning area. Chief Bates, we're working on outdoor burning. Obviously, it's permitted, but now that we've got restaurant type establishments, social establishments with an outdoor area, they've got fire pits, etc. There's some certain rules that should be followed in relation to the fire code, and trying to come up with just some sort of annual permit for them. That way they don't have to call the fire department every Thursday or Friday, Saturday night when they're going to have a fire pit out behind their business. They can get one, and there'll be, some stipulations on how to maintain that. Park designation, Chief Rice and John and Russ are working on that. We need to, I would like for the city to designate parks. That way, in our ordinances, there's a lot of reference to city-owned facilities, et cetera, as far as rules and how some of these regulations applies. But if we have a document that says these, council legally recognizes these as parks. So I think that'll help us. We're still working on that. We get a lot of questions on short-term rentals. I know I've been questioned by some of y'all about short-term rentals. I'm not saying we're going to introduce any regulation on that, but that's something that we're looking at, and obviously we'll run that through the planning commission as well, and council, just to see how y'all feel about some of that. Basically, short-term rentals or the Airbnbs type thing. There's about 30 that we know of in town. I estimated last year about 40 units, and that wasn't 40 buildings, that was 40 sleeping areas. So we would come to find out we probably got a lot more than that. We've got 30 actual places, so that we're aware of. There might be more that's operating by word of mouth, et cetera. So
Most of those have business licenses, or?
yes, and they do. When you sign up through Airbnb or Vrbo, whatever, there's options there to pay your license, your accommodations tax, and I've noticed an uptick in that in our revenue. We're getting a little bit more tax off of that, and that's one thing as we're learning all these here, and that'll be part of the enforcement thing, is to ensure that those have business license as well. And I know that was I think a source of contention, and actually wound up in court about between Airbnb and I believe the county of Charleston, one of those low country counties, about that they were not paying business license, and they need to. So I know that's still ongoing, so we'll tackle that one. That's something that we're working on. Obviously, the historical ordinance, the water and sewer ordinance, those are two separate ordinances. We're looking at combining those because a lot of the definitions are the same. If you look at the two ordinances, there's just a lot that's duplicated. And in that, we're really discussing about this billing and trying whatever date is on the bill, it'll be due 20 or 25 days after the date on the bill. So it won't be the 10th every month. So if something does happen or whatever, you get a bill and it's stamped a certain day, you've got that, 20 or 25 days to pay it. Down at the bottom or at the top, it'll, due by this. If it's due, if it's paid after this day, it's 10%. We'll show that fee that's calculated. So trying to make the bill a little bit more understandable and give folks more time to pay it. Obviously, vacant buildings, working on that. The historical and the vacant buildings will both be on the agenda later this month. And obviously, still working on the budget ordinance. So that's a big thing. Hopefully, we'll start working on that into April and May. Personnel handbook, that update's finally done. It was sent to our labor attorney for review, so hopefully it should be on the agenda in March. General code, they're the one doing our codification. They've provided a draft code. There's a few tinkering with it that we need to making a few adjustments before distribution, and plan on in March, at the March meeting, to introduce that. Still no word on our SCIP grant from RIA. I did publish the trash routes. They're online. May not quite be user-friendly. If you're on a computer and you click on the link, it downloads an Excel file. You can go in there, you can use a search function in Excel and type your street. It should populate, and you can find out what day it is. On a mobile device, it seemed a little bit easier. You could click on it, and you could go by day and just scroll through and find your street name. We'll work on improving that. As Celia had mentioned, code enforcement actions will begin on about the 15th of this month. Email. The email was down along with the billing system, so all the IT stuff that we had that worked for a while decided to stop working. So I guess it froze up. I don't know. You should get an email from Upgrades at Skykick. That's not spam. Go to that first email, click on that. Enter in your current email, current password, click the box at the bottom. You'll come to another page, enter in your email address again and the password that you want your new account to have, either the same email or the new one. Click that, and then you're done as far as migration. Migration will happen over the weekend, so come noon at Friday, the email system will be down, and hopefully by noon on Monday, it'll be back up and running. We'll be moving from our web-based email over to Microsoft Exchange Mail. So it'll have a better calendar. It's going to internally work better for us. It's got an archive tool. That way, if we do get FOIA'd, it's easier than searching through emails. We can search through that archive and be a lot better compliant with FOIA, and we got some more added layers of security for that.
Is it going to transfer over all our files?
Yes, it should that, what they told me should and what may happen,
I
but
understand.
it should transfer
That's
all
the
your,
plan.
the plans to, move all your current email from the one system over to the other. So that's part of the migration, so
Have
hopefully
you,
that happens.
have you spoken with them about it that's not here tonight?
Not
just to
yet.
make sure they know about it?
Sarai's already done it.
Okay.
I clicked, you should have gotten emails,
From Scott.
no, it'll be from this upgraded Skykick, but it'll
Oh,
say,
okay.
but it'll say from Scott Paris.
Yeah,
'Cause
it
he was
does.
the,
Yeah.
he was the
Yeah.
original account holder. They had to have a name put on it. It'll come from him. It'll say him on there. Now, your phone or your iPads, if you're using the Apple email thing, it may not work. You probably have to go straight to the webmail, mail.cityofwalhalla.com to get your email. So everything that didn't get looked at during the freeze we had last week, everything should be there. So you'll have to manually go to the website, and towards the end of the week, I'll have instructions that I'm gonna print out, put in your box, holler at me, I can get them to you. That'll tell you how to set it up, either if you wanna use the Outlook client on the desktop, or if you just wanna use your phone and iPad, or just log into the website. It'll tell you how to set all that up. You can just download the app, the Outlook Exchange app, and use that. So, hopefully it's gonna be a lot better. Able to share calendars. Y'all be able to see the city calendar on there, and if there's meeting invites or stuff like that. So we're slowly working on trying to streamline some stuff. I'm gonna save the committee. I've got one thing I'm gonna save towards the end. It might be a little lengthy. Let's see here. Budget. Took the items from a January 21st workshop. I had a meeting with the department heads, and we're working on those goals. They're building their budget to reflect those goals, and I am as well. We're working with Enterprise Fleet to look at fleet management for our vehicles. Basically, it's just, lack of a better word, a long-term lease purchase. I'm still waiting to get with their finance person. Annually, we might save about $25,000. I think maybe a little bit more over 10 years, close to $1 million that we'll save. It's just a vehicle rotation program. We'll quote lease the vehicles from them. They'll upfit certain things, and after 3 years or so many miles, they'll take them back, clean them up, resell them. The money that comes from that will go back into our quote fund, and then we keep the equity of those vehicles, and that just rolls into newer vehicles. So we won't own any vehicles unless we decide to just pay outright for them, or once the end of the lease period, we've paid the vehicle off through our lease period, we can obtain ownership of them, but we can still put tags, city tags, and carry insurance on them. I think Easley does it. There's a lot of smaller, was it Williamsburg County? One of those counties are doing it. So for water meter readers, police cars, administration type vehicles, it'll work pretty good. They will do some 450, 550 flatbed dump trucks. So we're exploring that, and that's going to be part of the budget discussion, is just to see if it's advantageous for us to do that. So, budget request forms have been sent out for hospitality to all our nonprofit partners. City clerk sent out budget reports. Fund balance sheet is attached. If you've looked at those reports, obviously all of our fuel expenses are over, so we'll be using that contingency fund towards the end of the year to cover those. And spending will be cut off come May the 1st. So that's been communicated to the department heads. Stump House, the contractor's on site. They've cleared over 2,000 feet of corridor, cut in so far about 400 foot of trail. and they begin last Monday on the 30th. Another crew, they'll be doubling their workforce, will be coming in March. So they're actually starting to cover a little bit of ground. Still on the Greenway, waiting on federal government to approve the contractor. Chicopee, the project's substantially complete. Few items to take care of, and then it'll be wholly done. The Waterline Improvement Project, we're in the pre-construction phase currently. Basically, they're doing all their design work, getting permits, etc. The design should be completed by the end of March, and everything goes well, we'll actually break ground in late July with the completion for the project at the end of the calendar year. Been talking to Russ, created a project to redo some boards at the depot. That decking needs to be replaced. We're working on that. Building dumpster screens. We've got the 3 dumpsters in the city parking lot. He's waiting on the lumber to come in. They're going to start building that as well to try to pretty that up. Sent out an invitation to bid for the rec department, Sertoma Field number 2. You remember last year we got all the LED lights, so this is for someone to come in and actually install the lights and the controllers and to provide a new scoreboard. Ross Mountain Parking, that invitation to bid will be sent out this month. Just got to get the final approval from the state since we're crossing a sliver of their land. And I'm going to go ahead and re-advertise the South Catherine 1 lane. Council had voted to make that 1 lane. This is some signage, just a little bit of sidewalk work and grinding up existing striping and restriping. So when I flew it last year, year before last, there were no takers on it. I'm going to try it again and see if we can find, now that people are starting to look for work, some of the smaller stuff, we're going to try it again and see what we got. Under the Main Street, we had our Winter Wonderland finale on January the 21st. That was designed to help build businesses with a January lull to provide them event. Probably going to have it a little bit earlier next year. That was why the Christmas lights were left up in January. We got a lot of good feedback about it, and some not so. But we're still trying to fine tune that, just to kind of carry over and say, all right, Christmas is done. Have something there towards the end of winter, mark winter, and then move on into spring. Planning is already underway for the Main Street to the Mountains Festival in May. That'll also include the bike race, the gravel race, if y'all remember that came through last year. And then, you already mentioned the charrette. With the CPAT team, there was a lot of good participation, and they're compiling the comments. On sewer, the sewer board last night passed that billing structure change. Residential rates will be $10 a base fee with a $5.39 volumetric per 1,000 gallon fee. Non-residential is 15 base and $7.73 per 1,000 gallon. Now, there was some discussion about the holding 50 cents of that, the volumetric rate to go towards a capital improvement fund, some sort of fund like that. So there'll be more to come on that. Just roughly doing some calculations, we'll need to add about $1.40 onto the volumetric charge to cover our O&M costs and some capital to put together about close to $30,000 towards capital improvement. And then Mr. Eleazar, he's going to work with West Union to help them understand the new process and implement the rate structure. And how this will work is we'll just add 2 line items that say joint regional, something to that effect on the bills. So when people pay that, they know what's going to the sewer authority. We'll put that in a wash account and then just send them that. So we'll just receive the money, turn it right around and give them. It won't be a budgeted item anymore like we're having to budget now. So it'll just, we'll serve as the pass-through for that. Any questions?
On West Union, they'll be handling their own?
They'll have to, yeah.
And
Yep.
so
Because
that'll,
these volumes come off the water meters, so whatever we're billing for water is what we'll bill for.
so we won't be billing them and
No,
them working through us anymore.
no. West Union they'll do their own billing, because they bill for water. They'll just bill. They'll do that. It'll be just a little bit of adjustment and change for us. There's still a few things to iron out. So if someone doesn't pay, who are they beholden to? Are they beholden to the city? Are they beholden to the sewer authority? If they go off and leave a bill unpaid, and for right now, I think we would handle it. We would just send it to the debt set off folks and let them handle that, and then what we collect, we turn it over to them. But those are just a few nuances to work out.
So how much would a Wahala sewer customer, how much more would they expect to pay?
To be honest, I've not penciled all that out yet, because the way the sewer authority set the rates was to cover the annual budget that we've got now, and they just backed into those numbers to make it. And we had Wildan was the rate consultant that the sewer authority had. They looked at it. The O&P looked at it, and I would just have to take some typical bills and figure out how much it's going to cost. So, I mean, somebody that only uses 1,000 gallons, it'll be $10. Lost my papers. Residential will be $10 plus the $5.39 plus the $1.40. So it's at the end of the day. I can't do. That'll be $16.79 for the first. For the first 1,000.
What, and I'm
after,
sorry, what is it now, Brandon? I just looked at it today, but I don't remember.
It's $6 and something base fee, I believe, and then another $6 1,000.
So they're,
I can't remember right
so
off.
it's
I'll have to look
going-
it up.
So it's going up a fair amount.
Yeah, there'll be an increase.
Mhm.
But it's based on, the base fee's going up, but, and it's just, based on your usage, so.
Mhm.
So you think it's going from $6 to $10 base fee, but, per 1,000 gallons is not gonna be much difference, it doesn't sound like.
Well, it's $10 extra, is it not?
Well, I can't remember what let me look it up. I can't remember what our base rates are. But
Well, we knew that
Mhm.
2 years ago. When we started talking about this.
residential user inside is an $18 base fee, and that's water, sewer. All right, residential inside $6.63 for a base fee, and then $6.63 per 1,000.
So that's coming down. It says $5.39.
Well, remember
now.
you got to add the $1.40
Yeah,
for
back
the
to-
city operations.
Okay,
so-
so that's gonna be,
It'll the
it'll be
per
less
1,000.
than $1, but
Yep.
the
The base
Res-
fee's going up.
the base fee's going up.
Yeah, about $3 and some change. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what's handed to us.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. What's collected, I think at the $1.40 for the city is about roughly was $182,000. About 17% of that will be, 20% will be for capital. The balance of that will be for just our city operations.
So that $1.40 is gonna cover our maintenance and salaries and,
It covers that.
So
And
it'd be-
with about 30,000 to put towards, capital.
okay.
In addition to the 25 that we already, put in.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so that includes the 50 cents for the capital fund, that $1.40. 50
No,
cents?
no.
So
The
that'd be on
dollar
top
fo-
of
the-
that.
Yeah, the $1.40 is what the city needs to charge to maintain our O&M, our program.
Oh, the 50
The
the 50 cents is for
cents.
capital for the
Sewer authority, correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah,
And all this rates like this is not including that 50 cent.
yes, it is.
It is
It
including,
is.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just not, the discussion now is whether or not that 50 cents is earmarked for capital, how much
I
of that's
understand.
gonna be earmarked for capital at the sewer authority.
Okay.
But basically, all three major cities and West Union is getting the same rate charge
Yes.
now,
Yes.
and then they have to account.
Yep. Everybody's paying the same rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, residential pays obviously slightly higher, and all the residentials pay the same rate. So, however, with the caveat that each, Westminster's additional per thousand rate might be a little bit different than.
That's all on the
Yep.
You
individual.
mean non-residential pays higher?
Yes,
Right.
non-residential
Okay.
pays higher, yeah. And whatever it takes to run the sewer operations for respective cities, they'll have to tinker with their per thousand charge. So now the sewer bills will have 3 different lines for charges. 2 for the sewer authority and 1 for the city.
Okay, that's how we're gonna break it down,
Yeah, we're
okay.
gonna break it down, so
Okay.
everybody can see what goes to what.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Yep. Any others? All right, I've talked to some of y'all briefly, and I've pondered this over the last 18 months of being here. I've heard different things, and we had discussion, actually the first of this month, about the committees, appointing the committees, appointing Mayor Pro Tem, and just looking at our meeting structure. We're working on different things. I've been working with our city attorney and the municipal association just to have a look-see about how we can maybe streamline, improve our meetings. I hear a lot of stuff. We have the committee meetings, and then we have a council meeting. There's times that myself and staff, we might need a resolution, we might need something done on committee night, but we've either got to call a joint meeting, or we've got to just wait till towards the end of the month. There's several different iterations we can do this. The one I kinda like is, we'd still have our committees, but council could meet as, committee meet, council as a whole. There'd be that. You could still do council business on that night, or not. It's just one of those things. The finance committee, I'm proposed to y'all that it goes from 3 to the whole council. The whole council has to vote on the budget. I think it's only fair that in committee, the whole council works on the budget. You're all at the workshop. If I wanted to do technically, if I wanted to do a finance committee meeting now, I would just have the 3 of y'all and then move on. I think that helps. If we do that, has the whole council as a finance committee, it helps balance out the other committees so more people can rotate around. But I think it just promotes buy-in from the whole council as it relates to the finances. So I'm looking at some of that stuff. Jeff Shacker with the Municipal Association is helping me through that. He's done work with some councils that's completely done away with the committees, and the council is the committee. So if something comes up, quorum of the council meets and takes care of it, and council committee as a whole, or as council. So there's several different flavors, variations we can do. I think probably one that'll serve us, and historically we've always had the committees. We'll still retain those committees, but just the way we meet might look a little bit different. The committees could meet when they needed to, but at the council meeting, the department heads still give a report. If we want to streamline that, the administrator gives their report, or y'all ask questions to the department heads. There's several different ways we can do this. So just be thinking about what you would think might would be helpful, might would still, you know, be a little bit more, transparent to the public and just ponder that and see what you think. So I'll have a little bit more, information on some options for structures later on, but I just wanted to plant that seed and go ahead, cause I know several of you have said something about that, so that way we can do more at our meetings, so. Any questions?
Good.
That's all I've got.
Okay. We've done pretty well tonight, got through fairly quickly. Does anybody have any questions on the financial report? Everybody looked at that? Under our, under the table one, the restricted funds, some of those are required by our bonding.
Correct.
And
Depreciation, contingency, O&M revenue is, required by our bond. Item F, the sewer I&I, that's part, I think, the old sinking sewer fund, and that's what I'm thinking about. What we collect off that $1.40, we'll start putting some money in there. Now, if you'll remember, your depreciation and your contingency, cause it's a water and revenue sewer bond, everything's considered as a system, so those funds, that 1.6 million, can be used for water or sewer. I'm not wanting to fully deplete that out because that's part of our grant match. If we get this close to $12 million from SCIP, we can use some of that as our grant match, so.
And our debt service, we pay every 6 months on that, I believe.
Yes, that's the bond payment, and we make sure we have enough cash in case something happens. We can still make that bond payment. And then, if you look over on the left-hand side of the sheet, we still got, it says 180 days cash, but with inflation, how some of the stuff, that 1.8 might be a little bit low. But we still got that balance as well, set aside,
Well, it's,
as an operating contingency should something tank, and then
I
there's,
can tell you from days gone by, this is a good financial report compared to what we've had.
and then you got just shy of $1 million
Years
of
ago.
unassigned fund balance.
Yeah.
That, you know, if we needed to dip in, we could. Don't recommend it, but, we could.
Yeah.
But we've got other accounts in there too, so. The ARP fund, probably technically, we could move that over, in unrestricted, but I just wanted to keep that there. So we just don't, like, word burn through that.
Yeah.
So we've got that to make payments on some construction projects and things like that, so.
Yeah, well,
We'll
that's
s-
what we need to use it for.
And we still, you know, even though we got the grant, the 2.4 million from the county, we still gotta pay the contractor, so we'll have to have enough cash on hand. They'll reimburse us fully for that, but, you know, we still need to maintain
Gotta
cash on hand
operate. Yeah.
to pay those bills.
On our audit, what have you heard from our,
The lady that I was dealing with October, November, she's no longer with that firm, so somebody else had to pick everything up. We've turned everything in to the auditor. They're just the new person is having to work on it. So, I was hoping it would be here, for January.
we still might have it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we
then.
still could have it in a couple of weeks.
So that turning it over, now that we've got an accountant, did that go
Oh, yeah.
smoothly?
It went very smoothly, and he's a resource that now we can ask him questions. Now that he's not our auditor, he can help us financially on things. So, yep, that's worked out. And had that person not left, we'd already had it, so it's just, it worked out much better this year.
Okay.
So, now they still did a lot of the legwork, preparing everything for the audit, but there's that extra layer in there, we should get a higher grade of meeting our gap requirements for the audit.
Wonderful.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Burton? All right. Hearing none, do I have a motion that we adjourn? I think we've taken care of everything.
Make a motion.
Is that correct, Mr. Burton? We
Yes, sir.
done? Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Thank all of you for coming.
Thanks, Brandon.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So,
My next one, I'll probably be zooming out,
I was gonna say, is it tomorrow?
16th.
16th?